One of the biggest hurdles when it comes to purchasing real estate is the down payment. For this video, let's go through a couple different ideas of how to save for that down payment and get a general idea of how much you actually need to save over and above the down payment in order to make your next move. I'm Michael Ouzas, I'm a realtor here in Toronto. If you ever want to book in a call to discuss what's happening on the ground level in Toronto real estate or have some ideas of how to save up for that down payment on your next move, you can click on that first link in the description down below. And for the next 6 weeks, I'll be taking on 3 appointments each week to set up a New Year's strategy session. So if you are considering making a move in 2025, we're starting to plan now in order to not have to rush when it comes time to the spring market. And generally that takes a bit of time. So we're setting up now in order to prepare our buyers for the spring market. You can click on that first link down below and click on New Year's strategy session. When it comes to down payment, there's a lot of misconceptions of how much exactly it costs to purchase a property. And if you look at some of the recent articles that have come out, it always says how Toronto, you need over $200,000 to purchase a home. That may be true if you are looking to purchase over $1 million, where you do have to put down that 20%. And on December 15, 2024, that number is going to change to 1.5 million. So you actually only have to put down 20% or more when it comes to $1.5 million purchases in the city of Toronto, or actually in all of Canada for that matter. But for this video, we're going to talk about the city of Toronto. And just before we get into it, if you are looking at a property that's $1.5 million in the city of Toronto, you're typically looking at a semi-detached property in the city, or possibly a detached property or entry-level detached property in and around some of the outskirts of the downtown core. I actually got the idea from this video from this article on Zoocasa that says how to save for a down payment while renting. And even though these ideas come into play for those renting looking into the market, this also can come into effect if you currently own a property and looking to make the next step. The first one is setting a clear goal and knowing how much you actually need to save when it comes time to making that purchase. And breaking this down, there's a few things to consider when it comes to your down payment. And because of the timing of this video, we will go up to 1.5 million, because on December 15, 2024, that number is changing to 1.5 million. So let's break down what that down payment actually would look like. As of December 15, 2024, here are the new down payment rules. So under 500,000, you'll need to put down a minimum of 5% for your down payment. From 500 to $1.5 million, it's 5% of the first 500,000 and 10% of the difference up to 1,499,999. Once you hit that $1.5 million mark, the minimum down payment is 20% or more. I'd also like to recommend that when it comes time to closing costs, you'll want to have 3% of the purchase price available on closing. So if you think about that, if you are looking to purchase $1 million property, then you will need an additional $30,000 when it comes time to close. That's for things like land transfer taxes and lawyer fees and things like that. Let's take a look at a couple real-time examples. So if you're thinking of how much you need to save, $25,000 if you are looking for a $500,000 condo in the city of Toronto would be the amount you'd have to save, plus those closing costs, which you want to keep in mind. So add another 3% of that, or give or take another $15,000. So if you are looking to purchase at $500,000, you'll be looking to save around $40,000. Next up at $650,000, and this is where the minimum down payment is tiered, and it kind of gets a little bit confusing, but let's break this down. Your initial $500,000 at 5% is $25,000, and the remaining $150,000 at 10% is $15,000. So at a $650,000 purchase price, the first $500,000 is a 5% down payment, and then it's 10% of the difference. So from between $500,000 to $650,000, which is $150,000, you'll need 10% of that, which is $15,000. So your minimum down payment on a $650,000 purchase price is $40,000. Now you can always put down more than the minimum down payment, but for this video, we're just going to talk about how much you need to save. And again, you want to factor in 3% of the purchase price for closing costs over and above the down payment amount. On a $1.1 million house as of December 15, 2024, the new minimum down payment will be $85,000. And that's quite the change, because before December 15, 2024, you'd have to put down 20% once you cross that $1 million mark. So the minimum down payment on a $1.1 million house is $85,000. And again, we're using that 5% of $500,000, which is the initial $25,000. And then the difference between $500,000 and $1.1 million is a $600,000 delta. And that's 10% of that, which is another $60,000. So you're looking at an $85,000 minimum down payment on a $1.1 million purchase price. We'll also want to factor in 3% of the closing costs over and above the $85,000. So you're looking at around $110,000, give or take, when it comes time to making that purchase on closing. And just as a reminder, once you hit $1.5 million or above on the purchase price, it's a minimum down payment of 20%. And again, add that 3% for your closing costs. So going back to the article, when we talk about setting that clear goal, go on the listed app attached to the link down below and take a look at some of the properties that stand out to you. So you're going to get an idea of what they actually sell for and have an idea of what your purchase price may look like. You could also go on to a mortgage calculator online and see what you could possibly qualify for. Now, it's not a full pre-approval, but it might give you a general idea of what your budget may look like and what are the properties that are selling for that budget, so that you have an idea of how much you need to save when it comes time to that down payment. This also mentions creating a budget, and it does make a difference when you're monitoring what you're paying. One thing that I've definitely noticed is with the advent of tapping credit cards as we go, it's very easy to spend a lot easier than in the past when we used to use cash. And I know I sound a little bit older there, but we used to use cash to make purchases, but now everything is done pretty much by tap card. And that does make it easy to let expenses add up quite significantly over the course of a month. So kind of having an idea of where your money is going to will definitely play a factor in your savings. Automate your savings, and this is something to discuss with your bank on if you can set an amount that automatically gets transferred from maybe your paycheck or from your account, or round up from your dollars spent and putting it into a different account, maybe a tax-free savings account or RSP, anything like that. So just having a plan when it comes time to that. In my buyer video, which is a full video on how to purchase A to Z on the full process, I did break down the differences between TFSA, FHSA, and RSP. So we won't go through that for this video. Make sure you check that one out to get those full details, because that might give you an idea of where to put those savings when you are making those automations or even those contributions throughout the year. This mentions to cut unnecessary expenses. And of course, that goes without saying, we all have unnecessary expenses, but one change that you could make, for example, is making coffee at home versus purchasing it elsewhere, even though there are some pretty fantastic cafes in the city of Toronto. So not sure it's as easy as it sounds, but maybe something where you could save a few dollars per day if you are making coffee, or just as an example, buying lunch every day, that kind of thing. Considering side hustles such as some freelance work that you can use your skills, you can do some tutoring or selling some homemade goods online. If you're into coaching, you can coach on the side, or little things like that to boost your income a little bit and help you save for those down payments. Taking advantage of employer benefits depends on your employer and what they offer, and reducing housing costs. So those are some of the ideas when it comes time to saving your down payment and how you can make your finances go a little bit further in order to make that next move on purchasing your next property. If you had any questions on how to break this down, happy to have that conversation and give you an idea of how much you actually would need to save for the property you're looking to purchase, especially when it comes down to different areas and what properties are actually selling for in those areas, because it does make a difference versus just looking at things like average prices for the city of Toronto. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on any other ideas you have to help save for the down payment. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.